welcome back to At Home with Adam. So I have a question for you. Today is an interesting recipe because have you ever had a craving for something that you just couldn't get out of your head and that you want really bad? Well, that's what today's recipe is about. So we're making pretzels, soft, warm pretzels with salt, and then we're gonna side that with a warm beer cheese. Like, I know this past year you can't go to a movie theater, you can't go to a ballpark. For some reason, I just am craving these warm salted pretzels. I mean, sometimes you just need that concession food and the pretzel is it for me. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you a different technique of how to make dough, and you're gonna be surprised how easy it is. So as you can see here, we're about to mix the ingredients into a food processor. Yes, I said a food processor. I'm not using a hand mixer or a stand mixer. I'm going to show you how easy it is to make the dough inside your food processor. So I'm starting with 3½ cups of bread flour. Bread flour is actually, surprisingly, has more protein in it than all-purpose flour. It is also allows for breads and cookies and your brownies to have more of a chew. So if you have a recipe for your favorite cookie or brownie, use part of bread flour with the flour mixture for a nice chew to your baked good. So I'm going to put 3½ cups of bread flour into the food processor, 2 teaspoons of salt, kosher salt. I have 1 tablespoon of sugar, 2 teaspoons of instant yeast, okay, and then about 3 tablespoons of melted butter. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the top, and I'm just going to process it for about 5 to 10 seconds. Now, the last step is about 1¼ cups of water. You want to turn the machine on and you just pour it in. Don't drizzle it in, pour in the water. So what I'm going to do is clip it up. I'm going to clear these bowls away, and I'm going to show you how to knead the flour next. Now, as I mentioned, the dough is done. You just take it out of the food processor and you sprinkled your counter with a little bit of flour and just take the heel of your hand and just push. And you want to knead the dough for about 4 to 6 minutes. All right, just get in there. Great upper body workout. Okay, and notice how I'm using this hand to turn the dough in and the heel of my palm into this one. So yeah, 4 to 6 minutes. It shouldn't be sticky. If it's a little sticky, just roll it back in the flour. Now I know I use bread flour for this recipe, but if you want, you can use all-purpose. It's just the same, you're gonna get the same texture for a bread dough. So the next step, the dough is done. I kneaded it, as you can see. Nice texture. It's gonna be great for pretzels. Now what I do need to do is I'm going to spray this bowl with a little bit of cooking spray, and I'm going to put the bread dough inside. I'm going to push it down, coat it with the grease, flip it over, get the sides, and I'm going to cover this. You need to cover about 2 hours. If you want to put it overnight in the fridge, no more than 12 hours in the fridge. But so what I'm going to do is cover this, and then we are going to let it sit for 2 hours. Now through the magic of TV editing, as you can see, 2 hours has flown by. No, just kidding. I made a dough earlier today, and as you can see, it's in a different bowl. So it's basically double the size of what it originally was. We're going to take it out of the bowl, and you're going to start kneading it again. You're not going to knead it for 4 to 6 minutes. Get a little flour on it, okay? And just knead it just a little bit more. You're going to put the bowl off to the side. What I do is take your 2 hands, and I'm going to do this to make it into a perfect circle, like a clump of dough. Okay, now I have a dough ball. I'm going to take my bench scraper. You can also use a knife, but this is so much easier to use. You're going to cut it down the middle. Okay, you're going to take the half, cut this one down the middle. Take this, you're going to cut this one down the middle, and you're going to do it to all of it. So this will give you 8 pieces of dough. You're going to be able to get 8 pretzels from this recipe. You're going to start with 1, okay, and you're going to make it into a long snake. So if you remember the days from kindergarten and preschool, pretend it's Play-Doh and you are making a long snake out of dough. What I do is I start in the middle and I work my way out. If it keeps coming back in, that's okay. This is going to be a good size. Now, what I do is I take the 2 ends and then I bring them together. I cross underneath, and then I flip it over and I attach the 2 ends to the bottom of the pretzel. Flip it over and you have 1 pretzel that's ready to go. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and finish the 7 of these, and I'm going to show you how I place them on a pan. Alright, so we have the shaped pretzels. So what we're going to do is we're going to let these rise or proof for another 45 minutes to an hour. So I'm going to cover these, and I want you to notice this is what they look like before they're proof. I made these a little earlier. This is what they look like after they proofed for 45 minutes to an hour. Much bigger, as you can see. So these are going to be what we're going to be working with next. So with these, I'm going to cover with a towel and put over to the side for 45 minutes to an hour. So the next step, while we are waiting for these, is you need to boil a little bit of water. Follow the link below and you will see how much water you need. So you're going to boil some water, and then you're going to add a little bit of brown sugar. Okay, stir it up. Okay, you want to dissolve that sugar as best as you can. And now this part is going to be a little bit of a nice, cool science experiment. So, as you can see, I have some baking soda. You do need to take this baking soda and you need to pour it in. Just be warned, it's going to act like a volcano. You're going to see a lot of fizzing up. And if it fizzes a lot, it looks like it's going to overflow. Take it off the heat and then dissolve the baking soda that way. So I'm going to slowly pour it in and see what happens. Okay, not bad so far. Okay, so you can see here's the foam. I'm just going to stir it in. Pour the rest in. Okay. For those of you asking what am I doing, bagels and pretzels have to be boiled before they're baked. So I'm creating the solution that you boil the pretzels in first. Now if you were to get close to this, you can actually smell the smell of a pretzel. It's actually kind of cool. So I'm going to let this simmer for a few more minutes before we start boiling the pretzels. As you can see, I have one pretzel in my hand. If you want to try to get the circles back, the little holes, that's fine. It looks like they overproofed, but that's okay. I'm going to stick one pretzel at a time into the mixture. Don't overcrowd the pot. I think I can get a total of 3 at a time. You're going to gently place it in. As you can see, it is going to start boiling. So 3, maybe 4. And it's okay if it gets wet. So now what I do is I'm going to let them soak or boil for about 45 seconds, and then I'm going to flip them so the other side can boil for about 45 seconds. On a slotted spoon, so you don't want any extra liquid when you flip them and when you take them out of the pot. And while you're doing this, it's a great time to actually go ahead and preheat your oven to about 450 degrees. So it's been about 45 to 50 seconds. Now I'm going to take my slotted spoon and I'm going to go underneath and flip. Okay, flip each one. And you're going to boil these for about 45 seconds on this side. What this is doing is when you put them in the oven for the final step, you're going to get that nice brown colorization, and it's going to give that nice glossy look at the end. I'm going to show you how to take these out slowly, let the excess liquid drip, and then what you do is you bring it over to, as you can see I have 2 cookie trays that I'm going to go ahead and flip it over. I'm just going to let it sit right there for a few minutes while I go ahead and boil the rest. Alright, so as you can see, the pretzels have boiled. Don't worry about the texture. They look a little wrinkly, that's fine. They look a little soaking wet, that's fine. That's all going to be taken away once we bake them. But before we do, create a little egg wash. Is 1 egg and probably a little teaspoon of water. Mix those together, and then what you're going to do is you're going to just basically brush your egg wash on it. That's all you do. Okay, get it? Okay, and let me quickly do this, and I'm going to show you what you're going to do with the salt. Now that the egg wash is done, now comes the salt. Now you can't have a pretzel without salt. I mean, you can add powdered sugar, cinnamon, whatever you want, but to me, I really wanted that go to the mall feeling, get that, stand in line for those warm, buttery, salted pretzels. That's what I'm looking for. So as you can see, I'm using coarse salt. You don't want table salt, you want coarse salt. And you don't need to spend the extra money on pretzel salt because kosher salt is basically the same thing. So what you're going to do, I pour it in my hand. Look at these nice thick crystals of salt, and I'm just going to sprinkle. Okay, sprinkle it on. Oh yeah. And if you like salt, like my father does, you might be heavy-handed with the salt, but just cover it. Because you also run into the habit of, I've been to places where you go and part of the pretzel's not even salted. You want the salt evenly spread throughout all of the pretzels. And then once I'm done with the salt, you're going to stick in the oven for about 12 to 15 minutes at 450 degrees Fahrenheit. And trust me, you will know when they are done because that nice golden brown color that we look for in a pretzel, you can tell. So once I'm done with the salt, I'm going to stick these in the oven. Alright, so I'm going to stick these into the oven. Now when you do that, halfway through, because there's two pans, I would rotate them. Take one pan out, put it on the top, put on the other one on the bottom, just halfway through so they can get an even bake. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and stick these in the oven now. While we bake them, we're going to get started on the beer cheese sauce. Alright, so now we're going to make the cheese sauce. And it's not just any cheese sauce, it's a beer cheese sauce. And I'm craving this, and I've had beer cheese sauce maybe my first time, maybe 5 years ago, and I loved it. And so I wanted to recreate it as best as I could, but I'm really happy with how my recipe turned out. First, you want to start off with a roux. A roux is just melted butter and flour. So I put a 1/4 cup of flour in the saucepan, and I'm going to melt it over the heat. The rest of the ingredients is you will need the flour for the butter. You need any type of beer. I have a Sam Adams. Mixture of cheeses, we got mozzarella, we got sharp cheddar, we got regular cheddar. You can put Swiss in it. Some people have put Gouda in it. Cheese, whatever cheese you want, you can go for it. Now, in the spice mix, I have some onion salt, some garlic powder, some regular salt, some cayenne, some black pepper. The recipe is below. And then we're going to wait to add these. Let me make sure the butter gets melted, and then I'm going to show you what a roux will look like. Alright, so as you can see, the butter's almost melted, and I'm not going to wait. We're just going to go for it. I'm going to add the flour next. And then you want to give it a stir. You can use a spoon, a whisk, whatever. I'm just going to use a spoon. And just keep mixing. It's going to get clumpy and thick. That's okay. That's what you want. Just cook it a little bit longer. You don't want to burn it, but cook it a little bit. And this is great. What you're going to grab now is the beer. And you're not going to use the whole beer. So if you have one person standing by, you can give them the rest of it when you're done with it. Okay. My recommendation is you don't want a fruity beer. Get the last time I made this, I used Coors Light, but you can use Sam Adams, whatever. You don't want a fruity one. Alright, I'm going to add about half of this. Okay, you can hear the sizzle, it's starting to foam. Stir, stir, you're going to get it nice and warm. While it's boiling, I'm going to go ahead and add the spice mix. Okay. Now, if you want to add a little bit of heat to it, besides the cayenne, you can add a little bit of hot sauce. If you want Tabasco or your own hot sauce, go for it. And this doesn't even have the cheese in it yet, and it smells really, really good. So I'm just going to add a little bit more beer. Liquidy. Okay, what I'm going to do next is I am going to add my cheese. The first one is that I'm going to add my cheddar. The cheddar is the one you want to use the most of. Again, it doesn't really matter, but I like cheddar. So I have a mixture of mild cheddar, and we're going to add a little bit of sharp cheddar. Okay. A bit of cheddar. Let's stir that again. Okay, it's going to start melting, which is fine. That's what you want. Okay. I'm going to add my mozzarella, and I love mozzarella. Mozzarella is probably one of my favorite cheeses. Okay, so we have a mixture of mozzarella and cheddar. Alright. Keep mixing it, a little bit more beer. And those people questioning, you don't need to add beer. So if you're worried about your kids, just to let you know, the alcohol does cook off. This ingredient, I'm just going to add a little bit of milk. Okay? It'll loosen it up and thin it out. We're just going to need to heat up so the cheese and the milk can incorporate with each other. There we go. It's starting to thicken up already. There we go. Look at that. Alright, your beer cheese is done. So, as you can see, I've taken them out of the oven. They have that beautiful brown color like a pretzel does. Now, I'm going to call this the go the extra mile step. You do not have to do this, but I melted a little butter, and I washed this because I used the egg wash. Make sure you wash this. And I'm just going to take some melted butter and just glaze the top of all of them. It's going to keep it nice and moist and nice warm buttery flavor. Alright. Let me go ahead and finish this and I'll plate one up and then we'll try one. So as you can see, the butter makes it nice and glisten. You can smell the pretzel flavor. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go in and try it. I wanna take care of this craving. Look at that. All right, and break a piece off like I normally would at a sporting game. Dip it in the cheese sauce. Oh yeah. You can definitely taste the beer from the cheese, but it's warm, it's buttery, it's salty. It's probably one of the best pretzels I've ever made. I highly recommend you trying this on your own. So I'm really glad you enjoyed our pretzel video. Please comment, like, and subscribe to our channel. What you can do to store these pretzels before I let you go is put them in a paper bag. They last about 1 to 2 days in a paper bag. You don't want to leave them out on the counter. Paper bag, great way to store them. If you make these at home, please send us a picture. We would like to showcase you in our next video. But other than that, you guys, thanks for coming, and we look forward to seeing you next time.